All right, Wholesale Real Estate Weekly Update number 24. Very productive week this week. We had some leads coming in from Red Panda. We had some leads coming in from Property Leads. We started up Zolo Club. We even had some hero calls that were coming through. Just overall, very, very good week. And even more than that, the best part of it is we had the first deal closed and funded. So hip, hip, hooray. We're off to the races. Proof of concept has been completely done. Now, from here on out, it's just doing it over and over, scale this thing and just completely create a repeatable process over and over to get things across the finish line from start to finish. So super excited about that. It's a surreal moment when you can actually see it transpire and go all the way from start to finish. There were some hiccups along the way, but closed and funded is done. Now we're on to the next one. A couple of deals that I could talk about this week. I got one contract this week. That contract was not anything super special. It is not something that's like probably going to close. Situation on this one, it was Illinois. Basically, lady is in a foreclosure situation. She is far away from her family. She's wanting to get closer. There's very, very little equity. There's a potential play from when I first saw it that there could be a subject to play. Maybe someone ends it with a wrap. The numbers panned out. I kind of just went through the process and looked at it. I told her options. From my understanding, there were two things that she could do: is either sell it on a subject to, or she probably needed to go ahead and proceed with the short sale. Those are the things that I was seeing in the moment. When I took it to my mentor, Cassie, a little bit later in the week, she said that there probably are more options, like a loan modification, potentially listing on the market. I think that there's not enough spread that she can list it on the market. I think that the house is also probably a little bit too cluttered that listing on the market would probably not benefit the results she's trying to get. So I don't know. I'm going to try to move this. I've had 4 or 5 conversations with end buyers, kind of ran the numbers with them. Most people are kind of straying away because the numbers are just too tight. There's no equity. Cash flow is pretty low. I thought there was more cash flow because I thought the PITI was a little bit different from initially talking with the seller, but turns out it was a little bit off. It was just the principal and interest what I was given. So lessons learned, ran through the numbers. I like that I still explored that option. I'm going to try to move it still for a couple more days and then kind of go back to the seller and just let her know her options and say that the loan modification is something you could possibly do. Listing on the market is probably still an option. I don't think that that's what she wants to do, but the other option also is potentially doing a short sale, which I can reference somebody from the community to help her out with that. Another deal was in Texas, if I'm not mistaken, and this was probably the best conversation that I've had. I went through exactly what was going on. I walked her through, what she was trying to accomplish on the back end of everything. We understood kind of a number and framework of what she actually needs to walk away with. We actually had some insights on some things that I don't think she was clearly thinking about within the sell of it. She was under contract with someone else who attempted to do an innovation and that completely failed. I let her know what was going on with that. She talked about potentially letting them lower the number again. And we kind of had a heart to heart and said, like, do you really want to go through with that? Because she had multiple conversations, or she said multiple times to me that she was never in communication with them. So like they would never reach back out to her when she tried to call them. Like, you want to do that for the next 90 days again? Just overall, it was one of the best calls that I've had. It was not a contract. It was a call me back later. I've attempted to reach back out to her. Still have not got a hold of her. That's not like she's ghosting me or anything of that nature. I think I've been missing her. So we'll see what happens on that one. I'm going to try to have another conversation with her today. That one could definitely be a deal. It's a mobile home. I think we're in the web within it too, that we could probably move that for. And it's one of those situations where this was like a motivated seller. She's ready to be done. And I think that we could be the solution to help her out to get this done at a price that's fair to get her what she's needing and still be able to make us a little bit profitable. Not a slam dunk or anything, but at least put some food on the table at the end of the day. Another lead that I had, which was not a deal by any means, but I went through my process, had the conversation, tried to figure out what was going on. South Carolina, dude said he was divorced. I always ask the question, are we celebrating or are we mourning? I'm not exactly sure which one. He said it needed to happen. He kind of went into the story of that. They're selling the house because of that reason. An aspect that came from that was, I forget how it popped up, and maybe I'll make a little reel of it, but he said he was a country writer. Like he wrote songs. He loves music. He was heading to a concert. And I said something along the lines of like, man, I bet you got a song for your ex. And this dude busted out laughing. Like he was super, like if rapport was built off of that, holy cow. Like it was the most amount of joy. It was just genuine joy that came from that dude's mouth after that moment. But wasn't a deal. Going on market's probably best with him for what he's trying to accomplish and the numbers that he was doing. Another deal that I talked about, or that I had this week, I think that one came from Red Panda, was a Florida deal. It's always interesting when people are selling someone at a discount and they don't want to go on market. But this one was interesting because the comps did not like verify what he was saying, but I could also potentially I could kind of see where he was going, where it could be worth more. He was giving me like an ARV of around 900,000. He was selling it for 550. His wife wants to sell it at 600. I was not seeing that. I was seeing kind of things, current market value of properties close to the 580s that were a little bit smaller than his and didn't have the kind of amenities that his had. So I was like, maybe yours could go for like 650 to 680, but I still think I needed a little bit deeper than that. This was like super transparent wholesale too. I was like, hey, do you want to keep having these conversations with people? There's people that were walking the house and coming through. I was like, instead of you doing that, how about you let me do that for you? And I can make some money on the back end if we end up closing on something. So he was open to the idea of that. Again, this is another one that I've not been able to get back on the phone. It was later in the week. We'll see what happens with that one. I think that in reality, I need it lower. I submitted that one to the comp portal within TU, and they were kind of like not seeing what I was seeing too. So part of me feels I was slightly trying to manufacture a deal because I was leaning so much on what the seller was telling me as opposed to what the data in front of me was telling me. So I need to make sure that I stay away from that. And that's a comping and underwriting issue that happens, I think, pretty often with most of us. Some new things that I tried this week was Zolo Club from Lead Zolo rolled out. I kind of came into that implementation call a little bit late. There's meetings that we have every single week within TU. They bring on vendors. The vendor was Lead Zolo. They had like a 30-minute conversation about it prior, but I came in very late. I typed into the chat. Hold on, what I'm hearing is they're dishing out a bunch of leads for us for just $250 a month. And that was exactly what it was. And it wasn't like these are bad leads or leads that like don't work. These are leads that hit their marketplace. And then eventually after they, have been there for so long, they go to like a sale club. Instead of going there now, I'm pretty sure what they're doing is they're just going to the Zolo Club. So these are still pretty fresh leads that just no one picked up while it was sitting in the marketplace. So they're not necessarily bad leads. They're just leads that didn't get picked up. So, and it's like unlimited. There's like 8,000 something leads inside of there. So definitely got that. I've had several conversations from that. Nothing that was like a deal. You could tell that these are a little bit older. They were some of them were like 128 days old, which is completely fine. Because if they're still motivated at selling, they've had 128 days of not been able to take care of the situation that they were trying to do. So like they're probably more motivated if they couldn't do it. So I'm going to go through Zolo Club. Not going to be like a main lead source, but definitely trickle in some of those every once in a while and see if we can make something happen. Even the filter thing in there, it's pretty cool of what they're dishing out. It's probably going to make other lead providers like Property Leads or Red Panda, High Speed Lead kind of does stuff like that with their packages, but it might make them try to do a little bit something different. Something else that happened this week was I ended up calling RJ Bates, my mentor, and had a conversation with him, kind of just like personal in life. And that was like super awesome. It like just shows how great this community is. I kind of gave him my story, what I'm trying to accomplish and like where I'm coming from with the things that I'm doing. My mentality was in order for him to be able to help me, like a mentor, a teacher or something, they need to understand where you're coming from when they're trying to help you. So whether it's like, operational things, that's easy. Educational, that's easy. But like personal things, like if I start to struggle inside of this business mentally or something of that nature, I have someone like that to lean on. But it's important that I think they understand where I'm coming from, where I've been and, how things have influenced me to get to where I am today. I think all that stuff's important. So we had a good like 30-40 minute conversation. It was just amazing. I love this community. I love TU. I just think it's something that's going to, again, I've said it over and over again, it's going to skyrocket me. I think that's going to be the thing that just allows me to take off, and just having that backing, having that support that's right there with it, just freaking awesome. Other than that, there's no new contracts. So I need to start getting some more contracts because the pipeline is dry. There's only one thing on the board, and that one thing is probably not going to stick. So goal is to next week increase the leads up. I'm going to try to increase Red Panda a little bit, play a little bit more off of that. I think I only got 5 leads off of them last week, 1 a day, while getting like roughly 2 or 3 property leads every single day. I think next week I'm going to turn up Red Panda to probably 2 leads a day, and then keep staying with the nationwide property leads, probably still do 3 a day. I was attempting with property leads to turn it on at night, so those leads trickled in the morning. I think next week I'm going to just play off of the day and see what happens. Other than that, very, very, very productive week. Kids back in school makes it a lot easier. And then other than that, like, we're just going to keep grinding away. So remember, stay happy, hungry, and humble, and I'll see you next week.